go ahead and check all my levels, if you will, as well as turn that down because I can't hear it. Am I live right now? Is it live on... it says it's live on Twitch, but it doesn't say anything about YouTube, actually. Let me go ahead and check on my phone before we get started. I've got a brand new... Yeah, okay. So it's set up. How's the volume? It's incredibly quiet. Let's fix that, huh? Let's turn that up to, I guess there. I guess that'd work. And then that up a little as well. Hopefully that will keep everyone satiated volume-wise. Otherwise, I'll give it a minute before we start. And check the volumes one more time on my computer. Does that sound good? It's so quiet. Why is it so quiet? You know what I mean? Oh, now it's good. I'm a mess, sorry. Good evening, everyone. I'm gonna go ahead and tweet this out. Or, what do they call it? You are not live. I'm not, really? Really? ASMR, yes. I'm going for a little more of... It's storming outside, as you can see. Lots of thunder. It's October. I figure there's no better time for a Halloween no-sleep reading stream, because I'm bored. I'm not really doing anything on this lovely Friday night. Jesus, that's sad. What can we say? We sacrifice our time for our art. Picture. Streaming on YouTube and Twitch, baby. Okay, post that. And I have a nice story pulled up for you guys that I actually haven't read myself. So, we are in for a treat. I'm just going to pull up chat on my, what do you call it? Laptop. I just use my laptop as my stream deck, I guess, is what you would call it. So, how's everyone doing tonight? Are we extremely, very chill this evening? Or are we a little bit frantic and neurotic? Regardless, you will become that way very soon from my, whatever it is I'm about to do here. So, great. Okay. Let's get started, I think. This story is called "The Something Walks Whistling Past My House Every Night at 3:03 a.m. Is the volume on the music good too? Can you guys hear the music? I hope so. Excuse me. Pause that so I don't take up all my bandwidth. Okay. I'll turn this up even a little more since we are doing more ASMR. Alright. Something walks whistling past my house every night at 3:03. Every night, no matter the weather, something walks down our street whistling softly. You can only hear it if you're in the living room or the kitchen when they walk by, and it always starts at exactly 3:03. The music's a little low. Let me turn that up. I hope that's a little better. The sound starts faint, somewhere near the beginning of the lane near the Carson place. We're towards the middle of the street, so the whistling moves past us before fading away in the direction of the cul-de-sac. When I was younger, my sister and I would sneak into the kitchen some nights to listen. Mom and Dad didn't like that, and we'd catch hell if they found us out there. But they were never too hard on us, since we always stuck to the one big rule. Don't try to look at whatever was whistling. Hey, Hose Mad, how you doing? My neighborhood is a funny place. I've lived here since I was 6, and I love it. The houses are small but well kept, good-sized yards, plenty of places to roam. There are a lot of other kids here my age. I turned 13 back in October. We grew up together and would always play foursquare in the cul-de-sac or roam around from the back porch to back porch in the summer. This was a good place to grow up. I'm old enough to see it. And there's only two strange things here. The night whistling and the good luck. The whistling never bothered me much. Like I said, I couldn't even hear it from my bedroom. But Mom and Dad don't like talking about it, so I've stopped asking questions. My dad is a strong guy, tall and calm. He has an accent since he moved here to the US as a kid. His family, my grandparents, they're from the islands. That's what they call it. My dad, the only time he isn't so calm is if the whistler comes up. He talks a little quicker then. Eyes move faster, and he tells us not to think about it so much, and to always remember the one rule, the big rule. Don't try to look outside when the whistler goes past. That's scary, yes, that's so. Not that we could even look if we wanted to. See, there are shutters on the inside of every window. Thick pieces of heavy canvas that pull down from the top and latch to the bottom in the window frame. Each latch even has a small lock, about the size of what you'd find on a diary. My dad locks those shutters every night before we all go to bed and keeps the key in his room. You hear his voice. My mom, I don't know what she thinks about the whistling. I've seen her out in the living room before at 3:03 when the sound starts. I could see her if I cracked my door open just an inch to peek. She's not out there often, at least I haven't caught her much. But once or twice a month, I think she sits out there on our big red couch just listening. The whistler has the same tune every night. It's cheerful. Da-dum, 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 da-dum. I have this music playing in my earphones, and it's definitely in a minor key, so I can't quite get the the cheerfulness that they might be looking for in the in the story. Remember how I said there are two odd things about where I live? Well, besides our night whistler, everyone in my neighborhood is really lucky. It's hard to explain, and Dad doesn't like us talking about this part much either. I gotta learn to read better. I'm not really very good at this. But good things just seem to happen to a lot of people around here. Usually it's small things, winning a radio contest or getting an unexpected promotion at work, or finding some arrowheads buried in the yard. You know, the authentic kind. The weather is pretty good, and there's no crime, and everybody's gardens bloom extra bright in the fall. A million little blessings, I've heard my mom say about living here. But the main reason we stay here, why we moved here in the first place, is my sister Nola. She was born very sick, something with her lungs. We couldn't even bring her home when she was born, only visit her in the hospital. She was so small. I remember, small even compared to the other babies. A machine had to breathe for her. We moved into our house here to be closer to the hospital. As soon as we moved in, Nola started getting better. The doctors couldn't figure it out. They chalked it up to whatever we were doing, but they could all tell we were confused. But my parents knew. Even I knew. Nola was getting better, just another... I can't take these Reddit stories, man. Nola getting better was just another of the million little blessings we got for living in our neighborhood. Yes, you haven't been banned. You're fine. So that's why we stayed even after we found that out. Do I have to scroll in or something? Are you realizing this? I can't read for the life of me. Pretty ironic, right? Let's find our place again. Please stop doing that. Please stop spamming in the chat, lads. Reading is an important skill. There's another person with an umbrella. You gotta stop that. It was thundering so bad here. You have no idea. No idea. So that's why we stayed even after we found out that for every small miracle that happens here every day, now and then some bad things happen. Sorry, I gotta mute you. We'll do timeout. Yeah, there you go. I'm exhausted, guys. And see, our neighborhood has a welcoming committee. They show up with macaroni casserole and a gift basket and a manila folder whenever someone new moves in. They're very friendly. 4 people showed up when we moved in 7 years ago. The committee made small talk, gave me a Snickers bar, and took turns holding Nola. It was her first week out in the hospital, so they were extra careful. Why is it already Halloween? I live in the future. That's why I'm reading scary stories. I'm in one. Then the committee asked to speak to my parents in private, so I was sent to my room where I still managed to hear nearly every word. The welcoming committee told my parents about how nice the neighborhood was. Really exceptionally hard to explain kind of nice. And then they told my parents about the even harder to explain whistling that happened every night at 3:03 and ended at the tick of 3:05. The group, our new neighbors, warned my parents that the whistling was quiet, would never harm or hurt us, as long as we didn't look for what was making the sound. The part they stressed, and I pushed my ear into the door, straining to hear them. People who went looking for the whistler had their luck change, sometimes tragically. A black cloud would hang over anyone that looked. Anything that could go wrong would. The manila envelope the committee brought over contained newspaper clippings, stories about car washes and ruined lives, public deaths and freak accidents. Not everyone dies, I heard the head of the committee tell my dad, but the life goes out of them. Even if they live, there's no light in them ever again. No presence. I like giving that kind of like southern, like Baptist accent to him, you know? I think that's fitting for this kind of place. Poor Hubert. Yeah, Hubert got timed out because spam. My mom, I could tell she wasn't taking it seriously. She kept asking if this was some prank they play on the new neighbors. At one point, my mom got angry, accused the committee of trying to scare us out of our new home, asked them if they were racist on account of my dad being from the islands. My dad calmed her down, told her he could tell our new neighbors were sincere, and they were just trying to help us out. He explained that he grew up hearing these kinds of stories from his mom, and that he knew there were strange things that walked among us. Some of those strange things were good, and some were bad, but most were just different. After the committee left, Dad went out to the hardware store, bought some canvas blinds, the latches, and the locks, and installed them on every window in the house after dinner. I'm starving, oh my god. I always stream when I'm like super hungry. That first night in our new house, I crept out of my room at 3 a.m., only to find my dad awake sitting in the living room couch, holding my baby sister. My dad held up his finger in a shh motion, but patted the couch next to him. I sat and we waited. Pumpkin pie, stop. You guys are distracting me. That is making me hungry. At exactly 3:03, we heard the whistling. Da 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 dum. Da 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 dum. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a good tune for that, but it's like, I mean, I can't whistle, so I would if I could, like. I can't. Dude, this is so annoying. YouTube blocks any comment with a swear word, and I have to actually. Oh, someone disliked this. Someone doesn't like my ASMR reading. It came and went just like our neighbors said. The whistling returns each night, and we never look, and we enjoy our million little blessings every day. Nola breathes on her own, and she's grown into a strong, clever girl. My dad even joined the welcoming committee. We didn't get new neighbors often. Why would anyone want to leave? But when a new family comes in, my dad and the committee bring the macaroni casserole, a gift basket, and the manila folder. I can always tell by the look on my dad's face when he comes back if the family took the committee seriously or if we'd be getting new neighbors again very soon. Not long ago, a family moved in directly next to us. The previous owner, Miss Maddie, passed away at age 105. She lived a good, long life. Our new neighbors seemed like they'd fit in just fine. They believed the welcoming committee, took my dad's advice about the locking shutters since they had a young child of their own. Whatever newspaper clippings were in the manila envelope, whatever evidence, my dad never let us see. But I imagine it must have been awfully convincing, since our new neighbors got along with no issues for the first month. One night, when our neighbors had to leave town, they sent their son Holden to stay with us. He was 12, a year under me in school. I didn't know him well before that night, but as soon as his parents dropped him off after dinner, I could tell it was going to be a bad time. Do you know who was always out there whistling every night? Holden asked the moment the adults left the room. The three of us were sitting in the den, some Disney movies playing idly on the TV. My sister and I exchanged a glance. We don't talk about that, I said. I think it's that weirdo that lives in the big yellow house around the corner, Holden said. Mr. Tolles? My sister asked. No way, he's really nice. Holden shrugged. Must be a psycho killer then. Nola tensed. We don't talk about it, I repeated. Let's go in my room and play Nintendo. I made him sound so... Love you. He's removed my cooldown mode. I'm sorry. I don't know how to do that actually. I don't know how to do that. This is why I need mods on my YouTube as well. I have a mod on my Twitch, but let's go in my room. Let's go in my room and play Nintendo. Should I do that for? We spent the next few hours playing games, eating popcorn, and then watching movies. A typical sleepover, but I could see Holden was getting antsy. After my parents had wished us good night, locked the blinds, and gone to bed, Holden stood up from his beanbag and walked over to where Nola and I were sitting on my bed. Have you ever even tried looking? He asked. It's nearly time. Like most sleepovers, we'd conveniently ignored any suggestion of a bedtime. I was shocked to see he was right. It was almost 3 a.m. I sighed. We don't... See, I can't even try to look because my dad locks the blinds every night and hides the key, he continued, ignoring me. Ignoring me? Dislike the stream if you're a Chad? That's not funny. Epic, spicy, spooky story. I have the least supportive audience maybe in the entire world. And so does our dad, said Nola. No, replied Holden. No, he doesn't. You saw him do it, I said, a little sharper than I meant to sound. Holden grinned. Your dad locks the blinds, yeah, but he doesn't hide the key. He keeps it right on his normal keychain. So? I asked, worried I already knew what he would say next. Because I had noticed that Dad didn't bother hiding the key anymore after all these years. Because he knew we took it seriously. So, after your dad locked up, but before your parents went to bed, I went to the bathroom. And on my way, I may have peeked into their room, and I may have seen your dad's keychain on his nightstand. And I maybe went and borrowed the keys to the blinds. Nola and I stared, and his grin only grew wider. You're lying, I said. Holden shrugged. You can check if you want. Just open your parents' door and look. You'll see his keychain right there on the nightstand. Stay here, I told both of them. Don't move a muscle. I was terrorize you, Murphy League Risen. It's not threat. It's not funny. I walked to the room. I want to be one of those like lol cows on YouTube where it's like just feeding into all the negative attention and just encouraging it more. I'd like to think I'm too self-aware for that, but people are mean. I hurried over to my parents' room, but hesitated at the door. If Holden wasn't lying, my dad would be angry. Beyond angry. I was scared thinking about it, but more scared of an open window with the whistler right outside. I opened the door barely an inch and looked in, but it was too dark to see. Taking a deep breath, I walked into the room. 2 steps into the dark, I froze. The whistling started, and I could hear it clearly from my parents' room. I never realized, but they must have heard the sound every night. They never told us. I don't think I could have slept through it. I stood there, listening to the whistling come closer, unsure whether I should turn on a light or call out for my dad. Soft sounds from the living room brought me back to reality. Where's the average human being on this particular day? That's just mean. You guys are just mean to me. Nola, I yelled, running out of my parents' room. Holden and Nola were standing near the front door next to a window. Holden wasn't lying. What did me and the whistler made out? Dude, honestly, the whistler sounds hot. JK, unless... Let me take a little stretch. I've been working out so I'm sore AF. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean? Oh, I'm so scared this is gonna light me on fire. I am so very scared that I'm actually gonna be on fire. Where's my water? I'm thirsty. You know what I mean? Merc wants to be a lolcow Christian 2.0. I would literally be so like... That would ruin my life. Thanks a lot. I have a video coming out probably tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. It depends. Depends. Would you guys rather I stream or edit for tonight? I'm vlogging. It's up to you. This is getting good. Holden and Nola were standing near the front door next to a window. Holden wasn't lying. I could see him fumbling with the lock on one of the blinds. I heard a click. He did have the key. Holden let out a quick laugh. Sorry, that made me laugh. Boobs? Why are we talking about boobs? Nola stood next to him, hunched up. Afraid, but maybe curious. The whistling was right outside our house now. I think I made a sound, called out. I can't remember. Time felt frozen, clock hands nailed to the face. But I found myself moving Ben Shapiro.
I'm not fast. I've never been athletic. Somehow, though, I covered the space between myself and Nola in a moment. My eyes were locked on her, but I heard Holden pull up the blind on the way just so we could release.
There's your Ben Shapiro footing. I heard the snap of it start to raise, and I heard the whistling just on the other side of the window. But I had my arms around Nola, and I turned us so fast. I turned us so she was facing away from... she was facing away from the window. At the same time, I jammed my eyes shut. The blind whipped open. The whistling stopped. This is good, hold on. I felt Nola shaking in my arms. Don't look, okay? Don't turn around. We were positioned so that she was facing back towards the hallway, and I was facing the window. My eyes were still closed. I felt her nod into my shoulder. I reached out with the arm not holding Nola and tried to touch Holden. Excuse me. My hand brushed against his arm. He was shaking worse than Nola. Holden? I asked. Silence. I reached past him and gingerly felt for the window, eyes still sealed shut. The glass was cold against my fingertips. Colder than it should have been for this time of year. I moved my hand up the window, searching for the string to the blind. The glass began to get warmer the further I reached, and there was a gentle hum feeding back into my fingertips. I tried not to think about what that might be on the other side of the window. Finally, I touched the string and yanked the blinds shut. I opened my eyes. In the dim light leaking out from the kitchen, I could make out Holden, pale and small, staring at the now closed window. Holden, I asked again. He turned towards me and he screamed. Everything became a flurry of motion. Lights sparked to life in the hall, then the living room. My parents' footsteps thudded across the hardwood floor. I didn't turn to look back at them. My eyes were glued to Holden. He was pale. Had bit his lips so hard there was a thin red line of blood running down his chin, and he'd wet himself. "What happened?" my dad asked from behind me. I managed to swivel away from Holden and look back. He looked. I'd never seen my dad scared before, but I saw it. In that night, in that moment, an old, ugly terror stitched on his face. A parent's fear. "Just Holden?" he mouthed to me. I nodded yes. My dad let out a breath. He looked so relieved I nearly expected him to cheer. But then he turned to Holden, and my dad's face changed. I wondered if he felt bad for feeling good that Holden was the only one that looked. There was a knock on the door. We all froze. Holden whimpered. "Don't answer it," my mom said. She stood at the threshold of the hall. I'd always thought she was a skeptic and just humored my dad about the windows and the whistler. But that night we were all believers. I noticed that both of my parents held baseball bats they must have taken from the bedroom. The knock came again, a little louder this time. "Please don't open the door," Holden whispered. My dad walked over to him, hugged him close. "We won't," my dad promised, still holding his bat. "Nothing is coming in here tonight." Thud, thud, thud. This time the knocking was loud enough to rattle the door. Holden screamed again, and Nola clutched her arms around my neck. My mom came over and knelt down next to us, wrapping my sister and me close. "Thud, thud, thud! Call the police," my mom whispered to my dad. The knocking instantly stopped. My dad looked over his shoulder at us. Do you think he was cut off by the frantic knocking that trailed off to a polite tap, tap, tap? "Police!" something said from the other side of the door. The voice from outside sounded exactly like my mom, like a parrot repeating the words back to her. "Police! Call the police! Police!" My mom pulled us closer. "Police! Police! 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 Please stop," I heard her whisper. "I don't think calling them will help," my dad said. "How will we know when they're the ones at the door?" The knocking came back harder than before. The door shook. Then it stopped. After a long moment, I heard the knocking again, but it was coming from the back door. We all turned towards the back door, but the knocking immediately returned to the front door. Front to back, loud, then quiet again. Then loud! Suddenly, the sound was coming from both doors at once. Big, heavy blows like a sledgehammer. Then something started rapping against all the windows in the house, then the walls. It was like we were living inside a drum and dozens of people trying to play at once. Or we were a turtle and there was something attempting to claw us out of our shell. "Stop!" Holden yelled. The knocking died. "I won't tell," Holden said, staring at the door. "I promise I won't tell anyone what I just saw. Just please go away." We waited for nearly a minute, and then we heard it. A soft tap, tap, tap coming from the window Holden had looked at earlier. Sorry, I was getting distracted by the chat. Are you guys enjoying this so far? I think I'm getting pretty into this. Bro, I need a moderator in this chat so bad. Y'all cannot act right. Good ones. I was pretty happy with how that little like knocking situation turned out. Holden started to cry, sobbing like a prisoner watching gallows being built outside their cell. I don't know what gallows are, to be honest with you. Voice acting. Thank you, Revan, however you say it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. My dad held him, brushed his hair, but never lied to him. Never told him things would be okay. The tapping at the window went on for the rest of the night. We huddled together in the living room for I don't know how long. Eventually, my mom tried to take us kids into the room while my dad stayed to watch the door. But the second we moved into my bedroom, the knocking came back. So loud it was impossible to ignore. I was afraid the door couldn't take it. We went back to the living room and the knocking stopped. Only the tap, tap, tap on the window remained. None of us slept that night. I'm sorry, but only the tap, tap, tap on the window remained. This is good. This is the best no sleep story I've read in like a really long time. Like, usually they're pretty corny, but I'm actually really enjoying this. I was asking people last stream, and I'll ask again. Would you like if I read like one scary story a week like on the channel, like cut out all the f-ups that I have while I'm reading, because I'm not very good. I can never do a table read. I'm terrible at reading. I'll be like reading lines for a video and they're right there and I still get them wrong. I'm sure you guys have noticed if you've watched my other videos. But here we go. The tapping stopped around 7 a.m. That's about the time the sun comes up here. We waited another We waited another 2 hours before my dad opened the blinds from one window. He made us all go back to my parents' bedroom first. I heard him open the door and then came back in. Okay, he told us. It's done. Holden's parents came back around lunchtime. I want a sandwich. My mom and dad, you can tell that was me saying that. My mom and dad walked Holden over to his house and they all went inside for quite a while. Nola and I watched from the window. She stuck to me the whole day, right up my side, sometimes holding my hand. When my parents came back, they looked grim, but they wouldn't tell us what they said to Holden's family. It was a Sunday, so we all spent the day together, ordered pizzas and watched movies. Ordered pizza and watched movies. That night, everyone slept in my room. Nola and my mom in the bed with me, my dad in a chair he'd pulled over. Could be the way I love saying scary stories when they're getting sleepy. There was no knocking that night, or any sense. We didn't see much of Holden or his parents for the rest of that week, but by Thursday, there was a moving truck in their driveway. Nola and I watched them packing up the whole afternoon after school. What sticks with me most is how tired Holden and his parents looked. All three had the same pallor? Pallor? I've never read this word. I guess it means pale. Grim mouths and lightless eyes. Even from across the street, I could tell something was very wrong. Holden and his family were gone before sunset. I remember what the original welcoming committee said to my parents when we moved in. Not everyone who looks at the Whistler dies, but even those that live have the light go out from them, and the rest of their lives are full of misfortune. A million little tragedies. I think Holden's parents must have looked, either to comfort him if they didn't believe, or share the burden if they did. I watch Nola some days, happy and young and alive, and I wonder if I'd been slower. If she'd looked out that window that night, would I have looked too? To comfort her? To share that burden? I'm glad I didn't have to find out. We still live in that house, in that neighborhood. We still hear our Whistler walking past every night. The blessings, the luck, the good things here are good to... This sucks. Good things are here are too good to leave. But we're careful. We don't have friends over to spend the night anymore, and my dad hides the key to the blinds very, very well. Not that I've gone looking. Some things you just don't need to look for. That was a really, really good story. That was really well written. That was really good. I really enjoyed that. That's great. Let's find another short one, because, like I said, I'm a moron, and I never eat before my streams, so I'm starving. My E is the Whistler, first of the stories. Oh, really? Is that like an old one? I didn't know that was an old story. I guess I was sorting by like top stories on this whole subreddit. Oh god, I'm so sore. I'm not gonna be able to move tomorrow. It's not a flex. I actually just overworked myself because I'm such a little weakling. Top of this year. Let's see, I'm on the subreddit right now. Searching for... What's this? Dad's shut himself inside a bunker? How long is this one? That's pretty long, but I'm down to read it. Family tells his own horror story and traumatized. Oh, really? My mom, and I really love this tradition. My mom was an English major in college, so every Halloween, from when I was probably from as soon as I could read, every Halloween, sometime around Halloween, she would sit us down and we would all take turns. Me, my mom, and my sister would take turns reading Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. And I'll tell you what, as a kid, it was both very difficult to understand and also got a little boring. But that's like one of those cool family traditions that you remember when you grow up, you know? If I ever have kids, which I doubt I will, but if I ever did, I'd probably do something like that with them too, you know? I guess it's the same thing as like when you're, maybe a similar concept to when you're pregnant and you're like beaming Beethoven into your kid's brain by putting like headphones on there. Like even like giving children or really young, like even like infants, I guess, mental stimulation with like, you know, stuff that's not just cartoons or whatever, like giving them actual like literature or well composed music or whatever. I mean, that's good for him, you know, isn't it? All right. Dad shut himself inside his bunker at the start of the pandemic. 3 months ago, we lost contact with him. Topical. Getting trapped inside of a bunker sounds like one episode of Malcolm in the Middle. I just finished rewatching that entire show. That is a really good show. That show holds up really, really well, like insanely well. Like honestly, like unnecessarily well. Like it did not need to be that like good of a show. Okay. Dad shut himself inside his bunker at the beginning of 2020. He said the world was about to end, and we didn't believe him. And when we didn't believe him, he told us to wake up. It was raining that day. I remember focusing on the water hitting the window panes while my sister tried to change Dad's mind. I knew it was no use. He was too stubborn to listen to anyone except maybe Donald Trump. The World Health Organization had just declared that COVID-19 had pushed the world into a pandemic. Dad wanted us to join him, and when we told him no, he called us brainwashed. He purchased the land before I was born, only because of the dilapidated military facility that came with it. It was abandoned sometime in the 60s, I think. My sister was there from the beginning, even before Dad's obsession pushed Mom away. It's hard for me to imagine what he was like back then. Mom says he was a gentleman. But they married young, and a person can change a lot during those years. And so did Dad. All I remember from him during childhood was the weekends at the bunker, constantly renovating it and stockpiling it with everything he would need to survive down there. We couldn't stop him. He wasn't the best dad, not even a good one, but it was sad to see him go all the same. He was excited, even though he thought that civilization was about to collapse. I guess that happens when you've spent your entire adult life preparing. We'd set him up to an old radio just to keep in touch with him. He didn't trust mobile phones. We didn't hear from him often, just once a month, sometimes less. The last time he radioed in, he said he had found a hidden door. He was going to see where it went. That was 3 months ago. You think he's okay? My sister asked. He wasn't in great health. I told him. We sat in the car, on our way to check up on him, driving through the heat wave. His radio must have broken down, I said. Let's not assume the worst. But I felt worried too. There was something strange about that hidden door, and his tone when he mentioned it. It didn't sit right with me. But maybe it was just the heat and the endless desert around us that played tricks on my mind. I couldn't really tell. It was dark when we arrived. Dad's truck stood where he'd left it, beneath some tarp that blew in the chilly, sand-carrying wind. We turned on our flashlights and walked to the cliff above the bunker. The steel door was made to withstand a nuclear blast. Luckily, I owned the only spare key in existence. Before I used it, I banged on the door as hard as I could and yelled for Dad. I worried he would mistake us for intruders and shoot us. If he was confused and it was dark, it was a real possibility. I banged again and yelled at the top of my lungs. Dad, are you in there? It's me, Josh. Evelyn's here too. I don't think he can hear you, Evelyn said. I nodded. Dad, I'm going to open the door now. I was 17 the last time I was here. Back then it was the Muslims that were going to end civilization as we knew it. Before that, it was the Russians. Now it was China. There was always something threatening his beloved freedom, and yet he was never truly free. My sister put her hand on my wrist just as I was about to unlock the door. You know, she said, maybe we should just call the authorities after all, and no, I said. He'll fight them. I'm sorry, that's funny. That's like really, really funny. He'll fight them. Come on. He'll shoot them, he'll kill them, he'll fight them. It's gonna go fisticuffs. I'm getting sweaty, it's so hot in here. You can see my sweat drenched. I guess that adds to the mood, right? Someone told me I have Bryce Hall hair, and that did not sit right with me. I'm getting a haircut tomorrow. I unlocked the heavy door. A rancid smell escaped. What happened? Did I finish streaming? Did it end? What happened? What? Oh, did my internet go out? Oh my god, I think the internet went out. Did it? Is it playing? What happened? No way. No, it didn't. I can't tell. Nah, I'm never gonna get this streaming thing right. No, it's fine. Never mind. I'm sorry, everyone. My bad. Oh, you gotta be joking. Okay. I unlocked the heavy door. A rancid smell escaped the darkness inside. It was the smell of... it was the odor of death. Pause, bro. It was the odor of death. I recognized it when Dad tried, and ultimately failed, to learn how to hunt and let a reindeer carcass rot on the property for weeks. My sister had already stopped visiting him by then. I didn't tell her what the smell reminded me of. She covered her nose with a shirt. We descended the spiral stairs. It creaked for each step we took, almost as if it was about to fall apart. Yeah, I know, sorry. The delay is so long, you're probably going to be hearing me talk about that for a minute. I tried the light switch at the bottom. The click echoed throughout the long corridor leading to the living area. Nothing happened. I realized that the batteries, which he charged by use of an old exercise bike, were dead. That meant he was most likely dead as well. The generator could be broken, I said, but maybe you should wait back here, just in case. You know? I pointed my flashlight in front of me. The light was too weak to reach the end of the corridor. On the way here, I had felt ready. I felt sad, the kind of empty sadness you feel after the death of a parent that was never any good. But I didn't feel worried. Now, on the other hand, while staring into the dark corridor that I used to run through as a kid, I was afraid. The fear reminded me of how my childhood night terrors used to start. They always crept up on me in the darkness, grew with the grotesque shadows on my bedroom ceiling. I'm not letting you go in there, Evelyn said. We stay together. We walked into the darkness. The foul smell intensified for every step we took, and so did my heartbeat. I was glad my sister didn't stay behind. The bunker seemed much smaller than I remembered it, much more cramped. The asymmetry between my memories and reality made everything feel off somehow, just as if the bunker was merely a model of the real thing. But it wasn't. I'd just grown up. Oh, jeez. The Confederate flag greeted us at the end of the corridor. It hung on the concrete wall. It looked pale in the hot spot of the flashlight, almost like a phantom. And, of course, in many ways it was. A ghost from a long time ago. Or perhaps a corpse brought back to life. An abomination. It reminded me of Dad more than anything else. You have to be seriously confused to praise freedom as much as Dad, and hang that symbol of lesser freedom on the world of your wall, Evelyn said. What? How these writers, man? These tic-tacs. He wanted to protect his freedom so much that he built a prison for himself. I removed the light from the flag, leaving only darkness. And Betty was confused. We entered the main hallway. It was overfilled with litter and clutter, empty cans. Both the food and beer kinds lay scattered across the sticky floor. Concrete wall. The music, I can't even hear the music because it's going through my headphones, but I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that. We had to take large steps to not step on any of the trash. That's weird. Evelyn pointed her flashlight at the small dining table. Look, my hair stood up on my neck before I realized what she meant. The table was set for 3 people. I didn't say anything for a moment, trying to process what I was seeing. And just when I was about to speak, my sister interrupted me. Who the fuck was here with him? I don't know, I began. I mean, he might have left the old plates on the table, and a sound of something falling to the ground came from one of the other rooms further in the bunker. I pointed my light in its direction, but I couldn't see what made it. Dad? I yelled. It's me, Josh. You there? No response. I'm afraid, Evelyn whispered. Something isn't right. I only vaguely heard what she said. My focus was on something else. Something on the wall in the end of the room. That's not supposed to be here. I slowly walked towards it. That must have been what he talked about over the radio. Dad had hacked away a layer of concrete for whatever reason and uncovered a rusty metal door behind it. It stood ajar. A lukewarm, musty breeze came out of it. My sister walked up to me as I carefully pried the door open with the back of my flashlight. I felt my heart in my throat. I could hear my sister begging for us to leave, almost in tears. But I needed to know what was behind that door. It was imperative to understand what had happened here. I needed to know. I needed closure. What in heaven's name? Evelyn looked over my shoulder. Why is this here? Behind the door was a room about the size of a broom cupboard. What is a broom cupboard? It was unremarkable except for a circular hole in the middle of the floor. I shone my light into it, but I couldn't see the bottom. Just as I thought it was big enough for a person, my sister said, "Do you think he fell?" Drops of sweat from my forehead fell down into the pit, just like me. I felt dizzy and stepped back, afraid I would fall inside. My sister picked up a can filled with some rotten beans and threw it down the hole. It clattered against the walls as it bounced from one side to another. The sound faded away until we couldn't hear it anymore. There was no indication it touched down at the bottom. I stretched out my hand and held it above the opening. "It's warm," I said. "The air, I mean." Maybe he fell. Evelyn stepped back, almost if she were convinced. "Can we please get out of here?" She reached for my arm. "We can return with the police. Please. Josh." It wasn't dark when Dad found this, I said. He would have seen the hole. "Josh, please. Just give me a moment to think." I walked towards the hallway that led to the other rooms, desperately hoping to find him. For some reason, it was important for me to see him, to be able to leave without wondering. I needed to know that he was truly dead. I stopped myself after I accidentally pointed the flashlight on the floor in the middle of the hallway, revealing a pair of feet. "I think I found him." I ran up to the body. "Wait," Evelyn yelled and reluctantly followed me. It wasn't Dad. I screamed upon the realization. My mind couldn't comprehend what I'd just seen. I spun around and tried to run away, completely acting on instinct, and crashed into my sister. She grabbed me, kept me still, and as she looked up to me, down at the dead body on the floor, she began to cry while her hands trembled uncontrollably against my shoulders. "Oh my God," she said. How is it possible? It's you!" "Let's get the fuck out of here," I said. "Move!" There was nothing that could explain this, and the more my mind tried to, moving in an endless loop doing so, the dread grew inside me. I got only a glimpse of the body before I panicked, but my sister was right. The half-rotten face was the same as mine, with a bullet in the middle of the forehead. We stumbled our way through the living area, tipping over chairs and kicking cans all over the place, and just as we were about to get out of the mess, a familiar voice echoed through the hallway we had just escaped. "Josh?" It was Dad. We both stopped in our tracks. "Is that you? Josh!" "Dad?" I yelled back. "What the fuck is going on here?" "Don't worry!" It sounded like he was at the other end of the bunker, possibly inside the storeroom. "I killed the son of a bitch, put a bullet right between his eyes!" "Come out from there," I yelled. "We have to leave, it's not safe here." Silence. "Something is wrong," Evelyn said. "I don't think—" "Dad!" I yelled. "Come out!" "I can't move," Dad said. "I'm stuck under a shelf. I'll need your help, son." I turned to my sister. "Go back up. I'll get that old bastard out of here. We'll be right behind you, okay?" "Think, Josh," Evelyn begged. "You think he's been stuck under a shelf for—" I should have listened. But even after what we had just seen, I couldn't even bring myself to consider that something as outlandish as what my sister was suggesting. It was simply too far-fetched, too unbelievable to penetrate all the layers of my presumptions about reality. It couldn't be. It just couldn't. Hence, I ran back to the hallway, yelling for my sister to get back up to the surface and wait for us there. I'm coming, Dad!" I only slowed down to carefully step over the corpse that bore my face. Perhaps I thought it was just a coincidence. A burglar that just happened to look like me. After all, the face had begun to rot. It wasn't me, obviously. I felt stupid, and I had almost convinced myself that it was just my childhood fear of the dark coming back to life down here. And then, just as I was about to walk past the small compositing toilet that stood inside a small room at the end of the hallway, I stopped. Shivers spread across my entire body, paralyzing me. Dad sat on the toilet. His gun still hung from his trigger finger, and his brain was splattered across the wall behind him. He had his journal in his lap, covered in blood. "Josh!" Dad yelled from the darkness. "Help me!" I was frozen in place, both by fear and confusion, unable to make any decisions. "Come on, Josh!" Dad kept yelling. "I need your help, son!" My mind was racing. There was no way of knowing who this was. When I heard Dad's voice yelling for me while watching his dead body, nothing but absolute terror reverberated inside me. I slowly reached for the journal on Dad's lap and grabbed it, hoping it would shed some light on the situation. I was just about to open it and my sister screamed. I ran back, this time jumping over my doppelganger's body, and I found her looking at something in the corner of the main chamber. "I told you to," I said, but changed my mind. Are you okay? What happened?" She cried. "It's me." Crawled up in the corner was her naked, dead body. Her head had been twisted in such a way that the neck had been broken. "There's something seriously wicked going on here," I said. "Dad shot himself in the head a long time ago by the looks of it. And yet he keeps yelling for help. Let's get back to the car. Now!" We drove away from the bunker as fast as we could, leaving whatever was still alive down there yelling for help. My sister insisted on staying at my place for a few days. I didn't mind having her around. We shared an experience no one else could relate to, and we needed each other to overcome the trauma. It took a day for me to build up the courage to open Dad's journal. It began with his usual deranged conspiracy theories. I flipped past them. At the end, he'd only made short notes. Found a hidden floor. Deep pit, possibly the remains of some old black project. Evelyn and Josh woke me up. A surprise visit. Didn't hear them enter. Strange. Had dinner with them. Something seems off. "It isn't them. They tried to make me..." Illegible. "God help me! It isn't them! I shot the son of a bitch right between the eyes!" Hiding in the bathroom now. This will probably be my last entry. God forgive me. Chills went down my spine as I read the last entry on the blood-drenched page. I never got the other one. She's still out there somewhere. I only got one bullet left. I won't allow her to do that abhorrent thing to me. Forgive me. My sister's been cooking for hours. She just called to me from the kitchen. "Josh, come here. I want to show you something." Oh my God. That was the best. Bro. That was the best story I've ever fucking read on Reddit. That was like the best story I've ever read on Reddit. Where are we on the stream? Because I know there's lag. My sister's been cooking for hours. She just called me. Dude, come on. That was like... I'm like freaking out over like how into that I was. Did you see? I like started to sweat more as I was reading that. I mean, like... Did you guys like that? That was easily like the oh, there need to be more stories like that, dude. I was like actually getting scared. Did you see how into it I was getting? Like I was honestly kind of embarrassing like how into that I was getting. But like when he was like, "It's me," I was like, oh shit. I might end up doing a like audio book. Yeah, wasn't that great? I might end up doing like a like audio recreation for that where I like add sound effects and like just do the voices and maybe get like keep some of the narration, but whew. All right, well, that's all. That was awesome. That was really, really fun. I'm gonna do several more of these Scawy streams throughout October in preparation for Halloween. Maybe I'll keep doing them afterwards, but that was fantastic. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and listening. That was really, really fun. All right, my friends. I will see you later, and I got a new video coming out this weekend at sometime this weekend. I promise that. I want a hot dog so bad right now. My face got stuck looking